I just finished this painting that I'm gonna call the Moroccan Merchant. Not very creative, but it's actually one of my favorite paintings I've ever done. I'm quite proud of it, maybe just because it's the newest, but this is exactly the sort of stuff that I love painting the most. When I go traveling, I make sure to take photos, and I just got back from India and took a ton of photos that I'm looking forward to painting. So I put a lot of passion and excitement into these pieces. So you guys haven't seen me post a video in a really long time because I was in India for a long time and working on some bigger projects. So I thought for this one, I should do something a little bit different. I'm trying something new here. What I did was I got the whole painting process down on time lapse, but since it's about a 60 to 80 hour painting, the time lapse is pretty long. It's about 6 to 7 minutes, I believe, which I think nobody's gonna wanna watch and you're all gonna fall asleep. So what I did was I added narration to it and I talked my way through some of the thinking process that I have while working on the piece, some of the challenges I ran into, and some of the solutions that I came up with. So I think that'll make watching the time lapse a lot more enjoyable for you guys. So let's get right into it. To help me start the drawing, I made a square around the head of our subject in my reference photo, and I simply duplicated the square onto my canvas. So the reason I did that is that it's kind of easier to see how the head relates to the square and get the drawing right. So once I have the drawing of the head right, it's easy for me to put in the rest of the painting, the body, the background, as it relates to the head. Once the underpainting is dry, I'm ready to go in on top of it with some opaque paint, as you can see me doing now. The underpainting was done as a color embauche, which is when you thin out your colors, kind of like a watercolor effect, by using some terp, in my case Gamsol. I just do that to lay down some placeholder colors and values just to get an idea of where things are. I find it helps me feel better about the painting as I go along. So the goal here with opaque painting is just to lay down the correct values and color temperatures with some thick paint, and I'm not yet too worried about the edges. As you can see, the nose looks like a penis for some reason. Glasses are pretty tough. I really struggled with them as I tried to get the symmetry of the two glasses. I had to redo it over and over again. I would lay them in, they would dry, and I have to come back in and fix it to try and get them to match over and over again. So I'm starting to lay in the headdress in blue, which was actually the most fun part of the painting for me. At this point, I'm kind of letting the face dry, and as it dries, I'm gonna look at what errors and little adjustments, like to the nose that I just did. And the mouth as well was a struggle too. Just putting in those small shapes on the headdress, which was a ton of fun, and playing with the edges here and there, adjusting little things. And now it's time to paint the coffee cup. This was a lot of fun too. It's the sort of thing I enjoy doing because it involves a lot of details, and I'm kind of a detail-oriented guy. There's a lot of fun reflections to paint. I really wanted to get those shadows coming from the fingers to land on the cup, so I enjoyed doing that, and I figured might as well start painting the hand itself. The object here is to simplify the cylinders of the fingers into simple objects before painting details on them. The shiny metal zipper is a lot of fun to paint because it's got all these reflections and strong darks. I find that to make metal look like metal, you gotta emphasize the darks. I'm returning to the hand right now to paint some smaller little shapes and to refine the edges to kind of finalize the hand. I just added some walnut oil to the blacks of the tunic because they're very dried out. And when you add some oil on top of it, you can kind of get the darks back to see what's going on. And it's time to paint the necklace, which was another really fun part for me, probably my second favorite after the headdress, because it involves a lot of details, of course. The strategy here to paint something really complicated is to first break it down into big, simple shapes. So once I establish kind of the big sphere of these beads, I I can go in on top of the big sphere once the values and the color temperatures are correct and put in the details, and it's no problem. So don't be intimidated by complex things. Just break them down into simplicity, then add detail on top. Same with that necklace part, the metal star. Seems difficult, but you just put the big gradients underneath the details first, and once that's done, you just add the little highlights on top. The napkin is there, by the way, because it helps the iPhone camera adjust its values more correctly. Now that the necklace is done, I'm just going in and painting the tunic. Same thing, big shapes first, then I go in and put some textures on top to make it more lively. I felt that my darks were too flat and dead with nothing going on inside, so I added some folds inside the darkness to liven them up. As I paint the hand, I want to make sure to use the thickest paint I can and establish my dark values and my light values. So I want to make sure that everything that's in the shadow stays in the shadow value-wise, and everything that's in the light stays in the light. I try to merge the fingers as often as I can instead of delineating each one. Looks like after working on the leg of the tunic, I see that some edges on the hand need some adjustment as well, so I go back in. And I start indicating the beads that he has. This is actually beads that were passed down to him from his parents and ancestors. So I wanted to make sure to include that in the painting. That orange bit was not actually in the photo because that bead was hanging on the other side of his leg, but I decided to Photoshop it in on our side. I'm working on the rocky texture behind his head because the wall behind him in the photo was all cement rock, just all gray. The entire background was all gray cement rock, but it wasn't interesting enough, so I invented all this other stuff that I'm painting now into the background, these bags and carpets and whatever. I took them from other photos from that photo shoot and also made up some stuff. Like the yellow ochre on the wall wasn't there at all. I wasn't satisfied with that rock texture, so I tried the wall for a second time to make it look more like rock instead of a furry wall. And I also felt that the background needed to be toned down and glazed down, and I decided to add some pots that I made up into the background. After showing the work in progress to some people, I discovered that it feels to them like the top of the arm sleeve is actually the entire arm, but really what they can't see is that the sleeve has an underside. So after this video, I actually painted in some reflect light onto the underside of the sleeve that's not present in the photo to make it more clear. Once the painting was dry, I wanted to accomplish a better, more cohesive sense of light, so I used glazing to glaze down the right side of the gray wall, and I also glazed down that brown tapestry on the right side as well to give it more form. I want to thank you so much for watching this video because it means a lot to me. It's one of my favorite pieces I've ever done, so if you're able to stick with me and see what I was thinking as I painted this piece, it actually means a lot. And since I tried something new here with a narration, please give me some feedback. Let me know if that's something you like, or if you want me to go back to the shorter videos, or maybe if you want to see real-time videos. Although I don't think I could put a 30-hour video up on YouTube. Let me know what you think, guys, and if you like it, please share and subscribe. Cheers.